What's up, truckers? Tricky Mick here, and today we're going to be talking about two topics in the trucking industry. The first is rampant fraud in the trucking industry, and the second, which I don't know why we have to talk about it again, but this keeps coming up in the Biden administration, in Congress, and in the news, the truck driver shortage myth. There is no truck driver shortage, and we have a few things to look at as why there is no shortage, and it's more of a wage shortage than anything else. But let's get right into it. TIA warns Congress of rampant fraud in trucking. Washington. Rampant fraud in trucking has become an $800 million problem, and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is not addressing the problem, according to the lobby representing 3PLs and brokerage firms. There's a surge of malicious actors engaging in illegal activity, registering with the FMCSA as carriers, and perpetrating fraud, theft, and holding freight hostage in situations without any legal consequences, said Jeffrey Tucker, testifying on behalf of the Transportation Intermediaries Association at a hearing before the U.S. House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee on Wednesday. While this is obviously an economic problem, hurting consumers and businesses alike, it also raises safety and security concerns. Unfortunately, FMCSA is failing to enforce the law or investigate the tens of thousands of fraud complaints lodged with it. And as we already know, trucking is a very dangerous industry to be in for multiple reasons. Asked during the hearing the types of fraud he sees being committed, Tucker, who is also CEO of Tucker Company Worldwide, a New Jersey-based freight brokerage, said the problem is criminals masquerading as brokers as well as trucking companies. It shouldn't be seen as either carrier fraud or broker fraud. These are just criminals, Tucker said. He pointed to similar cases of fraud involving dispatch services that are often based in another country but are not required by FMCSA to obtain a license or registration, as is the case with U.S.-based services. FMCSA must stop dabbling in non-safety commercial considerations like what dollar amount a performance bond should be or what commercial terms are included inside a private contract between two parties. Until there are effective measures to address and enforce solutions for this issue, the continued dysfunctionality of the supply chain and its adverse impact on the broader economy will persist. Driver shortage. In addition to freight fraud, Tucker addressed the contention made by sectors within the trucking industry as well within the Biden administration that there is a driver shortage. There is no driver shortage, nor has there been one, Tucker testified. That is a false narrative that may lead to unintended consolidation in the industry and to weakening America's supply chain. A more than doubling of American carriers and an increase of 1 million drivers has occurred over the last 10 years. We must have a more nuanced conversation about this. U.S. Representative Mike Boss, Republican, Illinois, a former trucking company owner, challenged Tucker. If you're out there dealing with it every day, there is a driver shortage, Boss said, adding that the increasing legalization of marijuana among individual states is exacerbating the problem. You may have a lot of people who may be good drivers, but they prefer to smoke dope on the weekend and they can't get clean by Monday. It's not like having a beer on Sunday during a football game. That is another conversation to have. I have my own opinions, as I sure that you may as well. So let's look at one of the reasons that some people might disagree with the truck driver shortage issue. Here, we're looking at the Bureau of Labor Statistics for a variety of transportation jobs. But we're going to look right here at heavy and tractor trailer truck drivers, 53-3032. And if you see here, the average salary is $54,850 per year. That might be a major issue if you're looking at becoming a truck driver. Is it really worth it to be on the road, away from your family, having to deal with absolutely horrendous conditions sometimes, not able to find food, not able to stop and get something to eat when you want to at a restaurant? You have to make a lot of sacrifices to be on the road, and in my opinion, it's just not worth $55,000 a year. In my opinion, the minimum a truck driver should be making for that kind of sacrifice is around $100,000 per year. But I digress. Here is another example here. Yellow Corp, a 99-year-old trucking company that was once a dominant player in its field, halted operations Sunday and will lay off all 30,000 of its workers. Now, this is from August 1st, 2023, and I'll read a little bit here about this as well. Today's news is unfortunate but not surprising. Yellow has historically proven that it could not manage itself despite billions of dollars in worker concessions and hundreds of millions in bailout funding from the federal government. This is a sad day for workers and the American freight industry. So a 99-year-old trucking company had to lay off 30,000 workers. Doesn't sound like there is a driver shortage to me. Again, I believe we have a wage shortage and a few other issues going on in the industry that can be solved pretty quick, but doesn't seem like those things are going to happen anytime soon, in my opinion. So let's get back here to freight waves. Red Sea supply chain costs. Lawmakers were also concerned about the recent attacks on cargo vessels in the Red Sea by Houthi rebels and the ripple effect on the global supply chain. The initial impact is the delay of vessels arriving both in Asia and coming back to the United States, testified Stephen Edwards, CEO of the Virginia Port Authority. So ocean carriers are rescheduling all of those ships and detouring around Africa, instead of going through the Suez Canal, he said, which will settle into a pattern of ships bound for the U.S. East Coast, taking an extra 7 days in transit. And you know what? Why are we even tolerating this? Why don't we send somebody over there, destroy the entire section? Don't tolerate a single act of terrorism happening towards our freight system. It is a major issue in my opinion, and we need to solve this fast before it gets even more out of control and before inflation starts taking hold again and doing what it's done for the past couple of years and just launching it so that the American people can afford the things that they need. Unfortunately, I think that's what's going to end up happening. You can take the view that the extra 7 days could be offset by the loss of the Suez Canal fees, but that is not true for vessels moving from Asia to the Mediterranean or Asia to North Europe. Tucker added that another concern is special fees related to the disruption and delays that the U.S. Federal Maritime Commission is allowing ocean carriers to charge their customers. There is concern that maybe those fees are not applicable to the situation and shippers would like to see more oversight on it, Tucker said. So that's what we're talking about today. Seems like there are some major issues going on in the trucking industry when it comes to fraud. Remember, there is no truck driver shortage. There's plenty of evidence to show why there isn't and why it's more of a wage shortage and a few things that need to be solved in the trucking industry. Well, I'm Tricky Mick. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.